Well, it's been another excellent week for patch releases, games that have been massively improved, and it's nice to see another one for High on Life. No Man's Sky has had an update a lot of us have waited for, Yooka Replaylee that just came out, and a couple of others as well. If you enjoy all patched up, just leave your comments down below. I like to read them, I like to see what games you'd like me to revisit, and we seem to have built like a nice community of people that really do enjoy this type of content, so happy days. If you want to check out our new channel, SwitchUp Extra, there'll be a link down in the description. It's only getting started, but it will be growing, it will be including other platforms as well, so hopefully you'll get a bit of the switch up goodness for other platforms and longer format discussion videos coming as well. Alright, what games are all patched up? Well, my name's Mark Walker, welcome back to Switch Up. Now let's find out. Let's start off with Yooka Replaylee then. Now, Glen did the review of this one. It is a full Switch 2 release, but as we know, the developers did not have dev kits early enough to be able to get the game into the shape they wanted. In fact, they mentioned they'll be releasing a performance patch post-launch, and I was hoping that maybe this first patch might be that. It's not. Straight away, it's not that, but it does improve a few things. Now, as I say, the initial release, it ran at 30 frames per second. Frame pacing always felt a little off to me, I have to be honest. Even though the software showed that it seemed okay on paper, it didn't feel right. Visually, we had quite a lot of jaggy edges, we had some issues with shadows, some textures weren't great, while the image quality was, I think it's okay to say, fine. It wasn't great, and it did need some work. Dynamic resolution always caused certain areas to look quite bad as well, which takes us to version 1.02. Now, I know for a fact, having spoken to quite regularly Platonic, they put in so much work with this game, and they are only going to improve it as they go on. And the first thing I notice, resolutions. It's crisper. It's crisper in almost every area. To me, it felt quite striking. There is a marked improvement in certain shadow resolutions as well. And I noticed less aliasing, less jaggy edges on certain areas and items within the world. It just looks cleaner, it looks more polished. Even in that short period between release and now they've been working a way to improve the image quality, it does look better. Now, it doesn't fix everything. The level of detail draw distance still isn't great for some shadows. You will see them materialize essentially from their low res to high res versions, close enough to the camera that for some at least, it could be a little distracting. There's a scene early in the game where you look through the telescope, and that definitely showcases how much crisper the image is. One of the biggest issues that people had though, and certainly one I had, was that you couldn't change the button mapping. So you had to jump with A on the Switch controller, which I hate. Like, it's terrible. It has to be B. For me, it just doesn't feel right otherwise. And now in this patch, we have the option within the menus to change that. So yeah, if you're like me and you didn't enjoy the way it was set up, you can now change that without having to manually remap buttons. So all we're waiting for now really is that promised 60 FPS performance mode patch to come, and I have zero doubt it will be within the next month or so. I would be very, very surprised if we didn't see it soon. For my personal preferences, low-res shadows, I don't care. Keep the image quality as much as you can, but give me 60 and I'm gonna be happy. Let me know in the comments, have you been playing this one? I was really impressed with the game, to be honest. A big improvement over the original release in almost every way. So yeah, go check out Glen's review if you haven't seen it. Next up, we've got High on Life. As we know, in the last video I mentioned it has had a Switch 2 edition that greatly improved visual quality. It was completely free, or is completely free I should say, so you can download it whenever you want. But I noticed the other day that 1.05 has come out. And I think this is another occasion where the developer has looked at how it performs on Switch 2 and the visual quality and things like that and gone, okay, I think we can do more here. There are a number of things I've noticed from the beginning areas. So yes, visual quality looks great. It really does. When you move between a few different places, things like particle effects, shadows cast within the environment that have dynamic elements to them. They look much cleaner now. A difficult one to put into words, I guess. It felt a little rough around the edges in terms of, well, one, things like textures, but two, when you were fighting enemies, sometimes they would just disappear. So you'd kill an enemy and rather than ragdoll around on the floor, it would just be gone instantly. I think that was a leftover or I don't know, hangover, a carryover from the Switch 1 build. That's definitely been improved now. Ragdoll physics kick in more accurately. Yes, you'll still have the havoc jankiness you used to get every now and then where a leg will get stuck in the scenery or an enemy will just torpedo off out of sight. That's par for the course, but them completely disappearing within 1 or 2 seconds before felt strange, or just bursting and being gone. So that is a nice improvement in my opinion. I don't know whether anyone else noticed that, whether it was just me, but I'm convinced the image quality's improved, the resolution, and it's just moving in a great direction. Really is a nice way of playing it now. Still some engine-based jankiness that we see a lot. So enter a new place and you might see textures gradually load in front of you over a few seconds. But let's be honest, engines like Unreal Engine have done that since day one on every platform, if you look in the right places. So yeah, it's nice to still see them patching this. They have no pressure to do so. They had no pressure really other than their own pride to make the Switch 1 to Switch 2 version completely free. So yeah, happy days. Now, No Man's Sky Voyager also got a mention in the last episode. Annoyingly, an issue that we keep getting with the Switch builds are that they come so late that by the time you want to play them online, the other versions have a newer build and then you get a version mismatch and you can't actually join them. My son and I have been trying repeatedly to play together. He uses the Xbox, I use the Switch, and you can't because it just says, yeah, version mismatch. Now, with that aside, I will look at that in a minute. We've seen big improvements with the Switch builds, the Switch 2 build specifically, and the Voyager update added in full frigates customization, but that also included and brought a bunch of new crashes. There were areas of your frigate that didn't render and load properly. So we now have version, what is it, 6.50, something like that. So let's see, firstly, does it actually bring the versions in line so that I can join with the Xbox in its current build as of the 13th of October? Sadly not. Exactly as before, we still have a version mismatch because the builds just aren't compatible. I think No Man's Sky really need to fix this. There has to be a way that you can get the version with the newer build to play nice with the older build. Obviously, it's not going to work the other way round, so I don't think the older build is going to be able to work with the newer build, but the host, you could have the host using the old one, surely you could then limit it in some way for the other one. It's really quite annoying for us because we just want to play the game together and we can't. And there's no point in having cross-platform because it's never compatible. I've tried about 3 or 4 times and it's just never compatible. It's always version mismatch. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's an option somewhere that you guys know about that we can toggle that means it will force them to the same build. But yeah, I can't see it. The only option really will be if, I don't know, we stop the Xbox from updating until they're finally on the same level. But is that even going to work? I feel like there might be an issue there as well because the online functionality might be tied to the Xbox version having to be up to date. Yeah, it's a shame really. Visually speaking, we know that the Switch version looks so much better than it did. Performance is there mostly. There are still a few janky elements like the level of detail draw distance on certain scenery items on your planets. It's quite close, like you will notice it. But there are improvements to particle effects, the lighting and shadows, and as you'll know from the last video, you can unlock the frame rate, so you can have the game try and reach 60, and in fairness, on a lot of planets, you will be hovering between, 45 and 55 frames per second, while still maintaining decent image quality, so it's not a bad way of playing it at all. Now, I did notice a couple of visual anomalies on certain planets. One in particular, yeah, I think I broke the game. Just check out this. It looks like when a graphics card dies. Either that or this is my Strange New Worlds episode. It looks like the torch has basically glitched, as when you turn that off, you can see things are back to normal. And you turn it back on and yeah, not so much. And then we've got those frigates, which is where a lot of people are having their most significant issues. Now, frigate building definitely seems more stable. I added in a bunch of different rooms and wasn't able to make it crash, but that means nothing. With No Man's Sky, it's one of those where I'm pretty certain that it doesn't matter what they do, there will be individuals that can crash this. They'll put 100 rooms. There are options within the menu so you can actually limit the amount so that it stops it from doing that. But yeah, if you go crazy enough, you will manage to crash it. I was quite disturbed to see that my little settlement, if you remember, you can build your own settlements, is like massively in debt. I had a little look and it was like 10 million credits in debt. So I was a little loath to return. But yeah, No Man's Sky, it's just going from strength to strength. It's seeing improvements constantly, but the mismatch is causing me real issues for my own personal enjoyment. One very brief mention then for Tales of the Shire, which I've revisited a couple of times since it was disastrously released in an appalling state on Switch 1 and 2. Look, performance is fine. I have a test, and I have only one person to ask about my test. Alright mate, yeah, now I've just come to check if I can still walk straight through you. It's the perfect test to see if they fixed collision boxes. Is that alright? Yeah? Alright, nice one. It'll only take a minute. I'm so sorry. Finally then, for today's video, we've got Ruffy and the Riverside, which was a Switch 1 game, but it played nicely on Switch 2 as well. However, there were some issues. Now, at launch, weirdly enough, they had the camera locked to 30 frames per second. What that essentially means is the camera was operating at a different rotation rate to the actual refresh rate. So the game could hit near 60, close to 60, I'm sure on Switch 2 at least. Switch 1 was all over the shop, like it just couldn't, but it meant that your camera felt more choppy than the game was actually running. The developers have very proudly announced a big update, well, a huge update actually, for the Nintendo Switch version of the game, which looks to improve on a lot of those features and things, so let's have a look. This is one where we really need to look at frame rates. So let's look at the Switch 1. As you can see, performance, to me at least, feels pretty bad. I'm trying to be nice here, but it feels shocking, especially if you come from the 60 frames per second Switch 2 version. Perhaps it's more noticeable, but realistically, what we have here is an uncapped frame rate, which is a dangerous move if your performance isn't going close to 60. It's dangerous because it introduces all kinds of frame pacing issues, and that's what we've got. Combine that with another issue that I've noticed. There seems to be some form of stutter, and it's present in both versions. That suggests that it's a bug of some description, or there's something streaming at the wrong time, something in the memory. You will see there's these momentary stops and stutters. Combine that with the uncapped frame rate, and I'm sorry devs, although I clearly see you've put in a lot of work when it comes to improving things, this isn't quite there for me. I think for Switch 1 you're going to have to cap it at 30 frames per second, or at least give an option for capped and uncapped gameplay to make it smoother. I'm thinking 30 should be feasible on Switch 1. If you have to bring the shadows right back or reduce their quality, then so be it. It's one of those games where the art style allows for that. It has that old school, almost N64 look where you don't really care if there's dynamic shadows and stuff, you just want the performance to be okay. As mentioned, Switch 2 is better, and the improvements to the camera, that is something that's noticeable. It's a very smooth camera now, it feels much better. You can obviously go into the options and change the sensitivities, but performance, yeah, it's not there yet, which is a shame, but it is most egregious on the Switch 1 build. So more work to be done, but nice to see the developers announcing their patch, at least giving us some indication as to what they've tried to fix. And I do hope that with a little more work and some tweaking, we can get a flawless 60 version on Switch 2 and at least a 30 FPS locked mode for Switch 1. I wonder if this is another case of not having dev kits. Well, I'd say it probably almost certainly is, isn't it? Whereby they cannot create like a Switch 2 specific build, so they have to uncap the frame rate to allow for the Switch 2 version to hit 60, but then that means the Switch 1 version has that problem. But we've seen devs introduce a toggle in the options for a 30 FPS lock, which helps them get around that issue. So yeah, I do think that's a viable solution, at least for the time being. So that's it for another episode of All Patched Up. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down below. Did you find some games that you've been keeping your eye on? Someone did mention to go back and visit Turbo Overkill to see if they've done the fixes there. And I have to say, it feels bad. It's locked at 30, which is, it's okay. The image quality is poor if you're playing on Switch 2. There's no gyro functionality. It's where it was before, to all intents and purposes, bar a few tweaks and changes, but nothing that's going to massively impact your gameplay on Switch. It's still a fun game, I think. It's a good shooter, but yeah, a bit disappointed by that one. Let me know in the comments others that you'd like me to check out. Thanks to all of you that enjoy this content, and as always to our Patreons, our members, and all of you for all things Switch all the time. Oh yeah, go check out SwitchUp Extra if you want to. We will have a Pokemon video hopefully on Wednesday. Keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!